If you're a hiker or trail runner and you've been thinking about adding strength training into your program, or maybe you've dabbled in it a little bit here and there, but you're just not quite sure exactly how to program or add it into your routine in an effective way, this video is going to be for you. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm the personal trainer and running coach at Kathletics. Here at Kathletics, we're all about meeting you where you are in your fitness so you can approach hybrid training in a sustainable way. Now, there are about 5 movement patterns that you're going to want to keep in your training program throughout the year. So we're going to break that down actually into 9 specific movements so we can go over the benefits of each and to understand why it's helpful to have a well-rounded training program all year round. First things first, whether you're a beginner or an advanced hiker or trail runner, strength training is going to be a staple in your entire training program. Of course, if you want to get better at hiking and trail running, we need to be doing those things, right? We need to be hiking, we need to be trail running, or at least emulating some sort of pattern or some sort of cardiovascular training that is going to produce those outcomes so you can continue to get better at hiking and trail running. Along that though, strength training can greatly help prepare you for the trails and increase your power output and increase your strength so you just feels better on the trail and hopefully improves your recovery and your overall performance. With that said, the 5 movement patterns that you're going to want to keep in your program are a squat, hinge, push, pull, and rotate. Now, there are lots of different ways and variations that you can do each of these movement patterns, but I do want to point out that where we're getting those extra 4 is that we're going to break that squat down into step-ups and lunges, so in addition to squats. And then for the push and pull variations, we want to have a horizontal push, horizontal pull, and a vertical push and a vertical pull. We'll go through multiple ways and variations that you can do some of these exercises. And if you're looking for specific demonstrations on the exercises, I do have plenty of YouTube videos on my YouTube channel. If you just want to go to click the link below, you can type in any of the exercises that I mentioned and I'll have a video there for you. So for a squat, we want to look at doing regular squats. So whether that's goblet squats, barbell squats, whether it's front or back squats, or if you're using dumbbells, kettlebells, you can use really any type of modality in order to do a squat. We want to think about having progressive overload. This is important for any of the exercises that we're mentioning today. But a squat variation is going to be important just for general leg strength. So we're thinking bilateral movements here, so using both legs at the same time. But we're also going to break it down into lunge variations as well as step-up variations. So that's still a similar squat pattern, but due to the nature of doing trail running and hiking, we want to provide some sort of single leg variations to that squat pattern. And especially if you are hiking or trail running, you know that you're going to be going uphill at some point. So doing the lunges, doing the step-ups, doing side step-ups, side lunges, things like that that are going to allow you to build that resiliency that you can carry over onto the trail. Then we have hinge variations. So hinging is going to be things like deadlift, hip thrust, single leg versions of each of those, good mornings. So basically we're thinking of any exercises that we're going to be sending the hips back and coming up primarily through the hamstrings and the glutes. Of course, you are going to be doing some part of a hinge when you're squatting, so I don't want us to get too confused with that. So squatting is more of a quad focused, even though we are using the glutes and hamstrings. And then as for hinge, that's going to primarily use the hamstrings and glutes. So they do complement each other, but they are slightly different, and both are important in a training program. Moving on to the push and pull variations. So you might be thinking, I'm a hiker or I'm a trail runner. Why do I need to do any upper body exercises? Well, for a couple reasons. One, you're more than a hiker and trail runner. You're also a human who needs to be able to move their body. We want to think about longevity. We want to think about overall strength. Do you want to be able to carry all your groceries in one go? I mean, I sure do. So I think it's really important that we think about how the upper body plays a role in not only your day-to-day life, but also on the trail. So on the trail, if you are carrying a heavy vest or if you're carrying a heavy pack, you're also rotating when you are running or hiking. Since it's a single-sided, we're moving one direction at a time, we want to be able to support that movement, and we need to have upper body strength in order to do that. So it's still important to have upper body strength training in your programming. So breaking it down into upper body push. So we're thinking of horizontal push. That's going to be anything that, like if you're laying on your back, you're going to be pushing away from you. So thinking chest press, floor press, push-ups, things like that, that's going to fall under the category of horizontal push. Then of course you have vertical push, which is going to be your overhead movements such as shoulder press, push press, and things like that. So thinking overhead for vertical. Then for that horizontal pull, we are thinking about things along the lines of rowing. So barbell row, inverted rows, single arm versions of those, and even things like using a cable machine or something like that for rows. So we're pulling those elbows next to your sides to use your back. Then for vertical pull, we are thinking about just how we were for push. We are going to be overhead. This time we're going to be pulling down. So things like pull-ups, lat pull downs, lat pull throughs, anything that's going to be driving the elbows down versus driving the elbows back, that is going to be a vertical pull. And lastly, we want some sort of rotation. As I mentioned earlier, you are rotating as you are hiking, you're rotating as you are trail running, so training in that range of motion is important. Now you can do this in plenty of different ways, but you likely will see variations of like a wood chop, or if you're using a different type of modality in order to rotate. There's multiple ways that you can rotate. It's not just within the core. You could be doing a lunge with a rotation. You could be doing a landmine clean with rotation to press. There are several different ways that you can rotate, but we do want to make sure that we are getting into the obliques and we are rotating at the hips so we can get into that movement. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, how do I program all of this? This is a lot all at once. Yes, I wouldn't recommend doing all of those exercises in one day. That is a lot of exercises. You really could get by with having 4 to 6 movements in your training session. So just something to keep in mind when you are planning your week. You can have those spread out throughout your training days. And if there's something specifically that you're trying to improve, maybe have that a couple times throughout the week. Full body is generally what I recommend, especially for those who are strength training 4 days or less per week. So just keep that in mind as you are going through your program. Of course, if you're looking to take the guesswork out of your training programs, be sure to click the link in the description below to learn about our hybrid training programs. Now, lastly, what are the benefits of doing all of these movement patterns? As I mentioned earlier, you are more than just a hiker or a trail runner. You are plenty of other things. You are a human first. So we want to make sure that we are addressing that, and strength training is part of that. We want to make sure that you're gaining strength, maintaining and building your bone density, building muscle, improving your endurance, improving your power output, improving your stability and your balance, along with a slew of other benefits that come from strength training. So if you're on the fence about strength training, this is your sign, and I encourage you to aim for 1 to 3 strength training sessions per week and hit all of those movement patterns all year round so you can stay strong and fit all year. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, be sure to like, subscribe, and then we'll see you in the next one.